Hey everyone, welcome to a bonus episode of Around the Bird Bath. I'm your host, Dan Nerdahl, and coming to you a second time this week. You may have heard the interview I did with Cameron Robillard with UTSA softball and getting started, continuing this bye-week content with Where Are They Now? The last one we did was our conference kind of memory lane with Jonathan Tapia, Ryan Flores, and Chase King. And special guests on this one, someone I was looking forward to talking with for a long time, finally made it line up, and good timing with fall baseball getting started and the bye week and everything. But had the pleasure of having now UTSA alumnus Luke Malone on the podcast. Luke is from Round Rock, Texas. He went to Round Rock High School. He spent 2 years at Texas A&M Corpus Christi before transferring to UTSA. While his first year at UTSA was the COVID season. It was the shortened season. The season got canceled. He turned a big corner in the 2022 season, going 9-3 with a 2.67 ERA, 11 starts, 17 total appearances, 87 innings pitched. One of the highlights, and Luke talks about this in the episode, was the 2022 Conference USA tournaments. He set the Conference USA record for innings out of relief, with 9 innings in the FAU game. Luke will talk about that and that experience, but continued that big 22 year and had an extra year because of COVID and the season getting canceled, but was the Friday night guy again last year in the 2023 season, 6-4, 4.99 ERA, 92 innings pitched, with at least 5 innings pitched, I believe every appearance except two. And one of those appearances was a 1 inning relief at Texas A&M, where the plan from the get-go was just 1 inning, and Luke talks about that. But Mr. Reliable was starting the game, and then had a couple of those enter and relief situations that you saw in 2022 as well. So he had a season high 10 strikeouts, May 5th against Rice. Luke's accolades: 3-time Conference USA Academic Honor Roll, 2021, 22 Conference USA Commissioner Academic Medal, 2022 Conference USA All Academic Team, 2022 Conference USA All Tournament Team, and he was in 2023 he was second team All Conference for Conference USA. So really enjoyed talking with Luke. We talked, him getting going in baseball, growing up, what brought him to UTSA, his time at UTSA. We talked NIL. We talked, Meet Me Apparel. Luke shares and just kind of how all that came to be, his relationship with Ray and those guys. Then we talked about, what he's doing now. He just finished his first season of pro ball in the independent league with the Boise Hawks, and Luke kind of hints at a little bit what might be in the future, what some plans he has down the road, kind of gives a little hint towards that. Spoiler alert, he's not done playing baseball, just exactly what that looks like. Excited to see, but I think you guys will really enjoy this interview. I mean, had a great time talking with Luke, very transparent, very just, honest and real, and just a really great person, and a great person to talk to. Before we get into the interview, want to mention, Patreon shout outs, thank our board of trustees and our big money donors. But before we do that, had a new subscriber, Stuart Saunders, joined at the insider tier. So thank you, Stuart, for your support with that. Our board of trustees, Digiteek, John Outwell, Lino Perez of Los Dos Rowdies Tailgating, Gary and Ruben representing the UTSA Bird Gang Tailgate, Ray Redding and Meet Me Apparel, Brandon Grill and the Grill Realty Group, Andy Elizalde and Proficient Benefit Solutions, Ian McClendon and SYCR LLC, Brandon Padron, Ryan Squires, and Waterman Construction. Our big money donors: Ben Tovar, Rick Cortez of Rowdy Road Grillers, Bunch Family, Zach Espericueta and the San Antonio Podcast Network, the Fikes family, Alejandro Benavides, Jacob Cavazos, board president for the UTSA Alumni Association, Maddie and Mandy, Jenna and Andy Henzaldua, and of course, Home Field Apparel, where you can use the discount code UTSA wants home field for 15% off your first purchase or 10% off returning customers. That supports us here at Alamo Audible and the Republic of Football partnership that Alamo Audible has and the work the guys are doing with them. So thank you again to our Patreon donors at all levels. Depending on when you're listening to this, our Patreon donors at the booster tier and above were treated to a summit happy hour where we discussed all things UTSA athletics and just talk about how things are going across UTSA athletics. And then again, throughout the football season, you get a bonus episode every single week, football related from Jared and Adrian. You get the immediate live reactions from Jared and Adrian, kind of that raw, immediately following the game perspective and takeaway. And then you get Jared's incredibly detailed film breakdown. He's doing some different things this season with, circling guys and arrows and, voiceovers, breaking down the play on certain plays. And so a lot of good content coming your way. But again, thank you, because your support and your being Patreon donors and those who are donors allows, us to provide this extra content. It allows me to have the opportunity to bring these episodes to you. So without further ado, thank you for listening. We'll take a quick Cumbia break and cut over to the interview with Luke. And I think you'll really enjoy hearing what he has to say. All right, everyone, welcome back from the Cumbia break. And as I mentioned in the intro, we are here with one of UTSA baseball's newest, most recent alumnus, starting pitcher, number 34, Luke Malone. Luke, how are you doing today?
I'm good. That's honestly just so weird to hear. Alumni of UTSA. I'm still not used to it, but I'm doing good.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, maybe reach out to Frank. I know you guys kind of know each other a little bit and student athletes, and Frank just seems to keep finding a way to stumble upon eligibility every year. So just see what his secret is, and we can get you back out there on Friday nights for another year.
That'd be cool, but I don't think so. I think I'm done for good.
No, I hear you. And you've got, you got some exciting things go on and happen after the summer. We're going to talk about that. Get into just talking baseball, UTSA baseball. We'll talk a little NIL because you had a big part in a UTSA related NIL company that is really taking off, and a lot of cool things to talk about. And you're out right now out in California, San Diego, visiting your girlfriend. Was it nice kind of escaping the Texas heat this summer, being up in Idaho and now out in California?
Oh, I mean, it feels like a completely different world. I mean, it's like more like dry heat. If it is hot in Idaho, if it was hot in Idaho, it was like 90 degrees and it was dry, nothing like the Texas, humidity or like how hot it is. Like my dad said there was a cold front the other day and it was still 96 degrees. I'm like, oh my gosh. But we were wearing jackets at night to stay warm for the games. And then here it's like always 70 something degrees. It's crazy, but I am looking forward to getting back to Texas, but I love the weather here.
Yeah, no, I get that. I grew up in Minnesota, and and it can get warm up there too. I mean, the big difference I would always tell people down here in Texas is up in Minnesota or maybe Idaho, it at least cools down in the evening. It's not 9 p.m. and 95 degrees outside. It at least drops down into the 60s and kind of resets a little bit. So
exactly.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear, and a lot of exciting things going on for you. I want to start at the beginning. Baseball, obviously, that's what we're talking about. UTSA baseball, your time at UTSA. Did you play a lot of different sports growing up, or did you kind of focus on baseball at a young age, or how did that journey start for you with sports and everything?
I I definitely played a lot of sports growing up. Of course, baseball, football, track, basketball, swimming. Um, I got it at all. But then, kind of like halfway through high school, that's when I decided to really just focus on baseball. But like through middle school and like early high school, yeah, I was doing it all. I mean, it was you had your football practice and you go to baseball practice or basketball practice in the morning, baseball game at night. Like it was crazy. And me and my family just had that talk. Like if you're which one you're serious about, and let's focus on that way so you can get more practice and more reps. Um, it really happened when I broke my wrist in football. I was a wide receiver. I was a running back, wide receiver, linebacker, whatever. And I was begging for a jet sweep, which is when the wide receiver comes around and gets the handoff and takes off. And I was begging the coach for it, and he finally let me do it. And I got the first down, like a good game, like down the field. And I was tackled from behind and fell and broke my wrist. And at that point, I was like, okay, see, I can't be doing this because now I can't play baseball.
Yeah.
But it was a first down. It was a good game. It was a nice gain. So my last ever, like, it was good. But they kept me in the game, and I still caught a touchdown with a broken wrist. So that was cool.
There you go. Yeah. It's kind of like the sports movie scripts where you see the player get injured, like he scores the winning touchdown, but then he gets injured and it's like, a sport altering injury or something, but it ends on that high note. So you can know that your football journey came to an end with positive yardage and positive gain. Um, and just a reminder, we've seen UTSA football run this jet sweep a few times this season, and it hasn't always worked out for them. So maybe we just need to move away from the jet sweep altogether. Luke's getting hurt, and it's not working out for the football team. But um, and I mean, so you were obviously a lot of sports, really good athlete. Your sister played, I think, college volleyball. Is that correct?
She still plays, and she actually has a
Okay.
game today at 6 o'clock Eastern, so 3 o'clock my time.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm all locked in.
Yeah. And I mean, your parents were at a lot of games last season, every Friday night game, often the Saturday games, senior year, big year. I know once Lauren finished her school semester, she was out there at the end of the season and conference and everything. Was there a point where, you mentioned high school, kind of when you transitioned to just baseball, but was there something that happened, or maybe a coach talked to you, or you had a really good season where you're like, hey, maybe I can do this at the next level, and maybe I can do this at the Division I level?
So I always wanted to play college baseball. I always did, and I knew I was good enough to do it. I just didn't really know what level yet. But I just wanted to keep playing baseball as long as possible, and that still goes for today. I just want to play baseball as long as possible. But I wouldn't say I had like a talk with the coach. What happened was I was getting a lot of Division III looks in high school and a couple junior colleges, but it was a lot of Division III because I mean I also got good grades. But then just out of nowhere, I think it was a team called the Houston Banditos, like a really well-known team that has like players drafted out of high school or to go to big Power Five programs. I got the opportunity to pitch against them, so that was in front of a lot of, obviously colleges looking at that team, and I happened to perform okay. Like I did pretty good that game, and so then I, got some talks here and there, but then I decided to go. I went to A&M Corpus Christi. And when I was there and I met some of the other guys, I was like, I kind of belong here. Like I can compete at the Division I level. So that's when yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of sounds like, I mean, so most of our listeners are probably familiar with your journey, starting at Corpus Christi, like you just mentioned, getting to UTSA. Maybe not everyone knows, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but I think you walked on to UTSA
Mm-hmm.
initially. And so kind of like it seems like you kind of had that kind of I'm going to prove you wrong mentality most of your older age, like high school, college, like, getting some D3 looks like, well, I do belong here and I can play at the D1 level. And then being successful at that, having a program like UTSA and where that team was at, and being the Friday night guy, kind of the leader, the first starting pitcher you see on the depth chart for the weekend. And it sounds like you've kind of played with that chip, but also benefited from that tenacity for a while.
Yes. I mean, you're right. Like I have that mindset of like, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong. Like, you don't say I can do this. Like, all right, we'll see. I remember, oh man, going back, my first year at UTSA was the COVID year. So fall 2019, and then the spring of 2020 that got canceled early. That's my first year at UTSA, and it did not go well for me. And and I knew if something didn't change, like I wasn't going to be there much longer, honestly. Not even just like not having a role on the team. Like I knew I wasn't going to be there. And so while we went, like had to quarantine, I just had that mindset like, okay, here we go. I'm going to prove you wrong. I belong here. I stay here. I can compete with everyone here. And I just kind of ran away with that mindset. And I try to keep that in the back of my head at all times, no matter like how I'm doing, like you can always be better. Just knowing what it's like to be down, and then just wanting to get better and prove people wrong. It's I love doing that.
No, that's awesome. And it's great to see. And, it even kind of got the attention a little bit of D1 baseball editor Kendall Rogers when you guys were playing at Rice at Reckling Park back in March. I think you took one like off the shoulder and then it hit your head and you had to leave the game.
Oh, yeah.
But Kendall was like, man, Luke Malone like just took one off the head and he wanted to stay out there. He was ready to stay out there. He wasn't coming out of that game,
Oh, I remember it was in the sixth inning. It was either I pitched 5 1/3 or 5 2/3, and my goal was to go at least 6 every time, like get a quality start. Now I think I was like 1 out away or so, and someone hit a ball, like line drive off like my shoulder face area, and I had like the laces marked like right here, and I felt completely fine, but they wanted to pull me, and I was a little upset, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and it's better. I mean, I know sports across the board, women's soccer, football, they're trying to be a little better with concussion protocol and keeping the athletes' health and safety there first. But so was that kind of like that mindset of proving people wrong or like looking for the next best thing? Was that what led to you looking at transferring to UTSA, or what went into that decision after a year at Corpus Christi? Be like, I think I want to go somewhere else.
So I spent 2 years at Corpus Christi.
Okay, 2 years. Okay.
And I grew up going to Corpus for vacation. I know the area. I love the campus. It's beautiful. Like I love everything about it. I love the guys on the baseball team. I love the coaches. I just didn't feel like it was the best fit for me. Like if I wanted to have fun in college, like if I wanted to have a good time, like go party, like, do whatever, Corpus would have been the way to go. But I don't think I would have gotten my full potential, like baseball wise, at Corpus. And I knew from Coach Hallmark, he coached at UIW, which is in the same conference as Corpus. He used to be the pitching coach at Rice. So he kind of knew, like in the back of his mind, already who I was when he was at Rice. And I knew the way he coached. I know like he was a coach that would get the most out of you. Like he would do whatever it took, whether if that was being hard on you or letting you figure it out on your own. Like, and I wanted that. And I knew he could get me better, and I knew he loved to win, and I wanted to win. So I just figured it was a good fit. I was ready to go to UIW, but then he got the job at UTSA, and so I just followed along.
Yeah, and kind of an interesting time. You mentioned your first year at UTSA was the COVID year, and so like, and that was Coach Hallmark's first year too. So you're transitioning to a new team. He's transitioning to a new team. You both have kind of already done your job somewhere else. Like you were pitching at Corpus. He was the head coach at UIW, but now different scenery. What was that like? You mentioned it a little bit, but what was that like, getting to campus? And as a baseball player, like I was talking to Cameron about this yesterday with softball, like baseball, softball, it's a spring sport. So you get on campus and there's a little fall ball, some practice, but you're not like getting rolling right away with your season. So you're anticipating your first season at a new school and then COVID happens. Like what all was going on? Like like how was Coach Hallmark talking to you guys about it? How was kind of like how were you guys just approaching it? Because it was kind of just like one day
approaching
this
approaching COVID,
yeah,
like
like
that whole
because
situation. Oh, I remember it was like it was yesterday. We played at Texas State. Uh, oh, well, okay. Let me backtrack. So, like I said, I wasn't, the best pitcher that year, and I remember not traveling to UTA when they went to go face UT Arlington. I remember not traveling, and I was just like, wow, like I need to like do something. And it's, this is kind of off topic, but it's kind of cool. Like my first ever like uh was it win or like home opener like to start off the season, I got to start against UTA.
oh nice.
So that was really cool. That was the next year after the COVID year, I got to start at home against UTA, and that's not the team I was able to travel to. But I remember it was like yesterday because they came back and then it was spring break and we faced Texas State. And I honestly, this is going to sound bad, but I didn't really know how big COVID was. Like I heard about it. I knew it was going on, but I was like, there's surely no way it comes over here. And like, like all that stuff. So then we faced Texas State and, we lost. Okay. But what really stuck out to me is, sometimes after the games, how like players go out and shake hands or whatever, if you're not going to face them again that season, whether it's like the end of a series or something. We didn't go shake Texas State's hand afterwards. And it wasn't because we lost or anything. It was, I was like, oh, is this because, like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, interesting. And so then a couple of days later, we were supposed to have our first conference series against Charlotte at home. And just out of nowhere, Ivy League canceled their season. You just start hearing all this stuff. Charlotte was in the plane on the way to come see us when all this hit. So they had to like turn around. They canceled the College World Series and they canceled the NBA. Like it was all up in the air. Like we didn't know what was going on, but it was just kind of weird. Like they canceled the College World Series, but not our season. And then sure enough, like the next day or two, season was bang. It was a super weird time because we were like, it seemed to just hit so fast. And, but again, it was just being able to like go home and just really reflect on like how I was doing as a person and baseball wise, like going home and I was able to like work on myself. Like when we couldn't leave, just do whatever it took to get better. And I mean, and then that summer I was fortunate enough to play for the Round Rock Harrymen, which was one of the, like the TCL, Texas Collegiate League, was one of the only summer leagues going on. And I made vast improvements compared to just months before. And so it was a weird time, but it was still, I think it was good for me. I think I made the most out of it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you mentioned like coming out of nowhere and so much uncertainty like in like the sports world, but also just like, the United States in general from a big picture standpoint. But it kind of sounds like, I mean, because maybe you get those opportunities even if the season continues, but the season continues as is and you're doing the grind, maybe you don't get that reflection time in the same way. And it sounds like that really opened the door and kind of changed some things. So, definitely a positive that came out of a crummy situation for a lot of people,
If you think about it this way, if that season was never, shut down, I would not have been able to go to UTSA that last year.
Wow.
This past year, I wouldn't have been there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a weird way to look at it.
No, and I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a great life lesson that sometimes like in the moment we don't know what's going to happen down the road and like why something's happening the way it is, or even injury. Somebody gets injured and just the timing of it. I mean, an injury is never good timing, but like I want to talk about this a little more later if we have time. But like Shohei Ohtani taking the world by stage goes down with a crucial injury to the pitchers specifically, And a lot of people were like, "Oh, like how's this going to change his career trajectory and his life earnings and everything?" So, um, yeah, that's a great reminder that sometimes we don't always know what's going to be down the road, but it might just work out.
Hmm.
Um, so you come into UTSA, you're having a harder time getting going. Were there some older guys you were leaning on? Did you have some mentors like when you came in? I mean, baseball is kind of a tight knit community, especially like the South Texas area. A lot of you guys know each other from like local high schools and traveling ball and everything. Was there anyone who kind of took you under your wing when you got to UTSA?
Yes. So kind of that first year was a little weird because I mean you had some players that Coach Hallmark didn't recruit, some players still at UTSA from before, and so there was like a lot of different guys. You know what I mean? A bunch of some players, might have not taken it as serious. Some players, you know what I mean? It was just like you had so many guys. Coach Hallmark bringing in his guys that were there before, like lots of guys. But I will say that, yeah, there were several guys that, took me under their wing, but one I will never, it was Shane Darty, uh, older guy. I think his last year, if I remember correctly, was 2021. The season after COVID was his last year. And he went down with an injury as well.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact injury. It might have been something with the elbow. But I remember in the off season, like fall ball, people don't realize how like hard is not a good word, but like time consuming and just like energy draining fall ball is. Like even though it's not in season, you're still out there practicing hours a day, inter squads. Like you play games all the time. Like you're trying to prove that you can make the team. So it's not like a time to just relax. But come November, that stops. And so from like November to, when you start, the in-season training, you're on your own. And I remember going out there with him for hours a day working on stuff, whether it was like medicine ball work or this like drive line working weighted balls. Like I remember doing certain lifts. We did it all the time together. So he definitely showed me, and I knew he was successful. He was a really good pitcher. So he definitely showed me like, if you want to be successful at like in Conference USA, like, which is, I consider Conference USA a Power Five when it comes to baseball, which is
Yeah.
it's now the American, but I would say like Conference USA was legit in baseball. He kind of showed me what it took if you want to compete, and not only compete, but do well, you got to put in the work. And we put in the work. And so, yeah, I kept that with me, and I just always kind of put in the work when I could.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear. I'm actually going to see Shane tonight. He goes to the same church that I do,
Tell
and we
him I
play
said
on.
hi. Tell him I
Yeah, I
said
will.
hi. He'll remember if you bring up the medicine ball drills and tell him about the force plate. Oh, he'll tell you all about it. Being out there for hours.
Yeah. Well, and it's fun. So we play on the church softball team together, and he can still sling it. I mean, I think it was Tommy John, and a lot of times we'll put him in the outfield because he's got a pretty good arm, and
Mhm.
he'll gun it into second base about 80 to 85 miles an hour. And usually it's cool because you always catch the visiting team or the team you're playing off guard, because you don't get a lot of like younger post Division 1 pitchers playing church softball, whatever, recreational softball. And so that first time he always slings it in there, they're like, whoa. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, he can throw. And yeah, he still slings it pretty good. Sometimes he'll kind of regret it the next day. He's like, yeah, my arm's kind of bothering me a little bit, but yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah,
I've
you
enjoyed
got
getting
to
to
tell
know
him for
him.
sure. I said hi. You got to tell him
I
something
will.
for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. And actually, it's funny. Last week, I wasn't there last week because I went to the Army game, but he actually brought JK out there last week.
Really?
Yeah, and Josh played a couple games with them and hit a dinger his first at bat, and then was trying to hit it out the rest of the night. And I mean, slow pitch softball is a lot different, especially if you're used to that baseball swing. And I think he hit like 3 or 4 flyouts. So you have to text JK and like, hey man, heard you couldn't hack it at slow pitch softball.
I wonder if he was jumping around the bases after he hit the home run. So I'm trying to pump up the crowd.
Listen, I know that like the end result of the DBU series for a lot of different reasons was not what we were hoping for. But when he hit that grand slam, I don't remember. Okay, so the cool thing about it, like I was sitting next to your dad, and this is the one quote that I am allowed to talk about on the podcast, I think, or I break the rule for, because the bases were loaded. It was 8-4, 9-5, whatever. And he's like, "Come on, JK, right center, right center." And I'm saying not one pitch later, he rockets that thing over right center fence, and the crowd is going crazy. Probably the loudest I'd heard the bird bath all season. I go up to your dad. I'm like, you called that, Greg. You called that. I don't
Oh,
remember. I don't remember Josh crossing second base. I think I blacked out. I came to like he was coming around third base and he had his arms pumped up. Probably one of the cooler moments I've seen live for
no,
baseball.
so Josh as a hitter, like he wasn't gonna have like your best average or your best like the most power, but he would give you the toughest at bats as a pitcher.
Yeah.
Like he had power to all sides of the field, and like he knew how to handle the outside or like the low and away pitch as well. Like he'd go barrel back, he'd keep his weight back, he wouldn't look to pull like, and if he saw it inside, he'd react inside. Like he was always a tough out to get, and he was. I mean, besides hitting like obviously one of the best catchers to ever play at UTSA. I mean, it was ridiculous how many times he saved our pitching staff, and he really didn't get enough credit. I mean, that guy was a bulldog back there, blocking balls, throwing people out, calling the right pitches. I mean, one thing I loved about me and Josh, it was like he kind of knew how I like to call the game, and I kind of knew how he liked to call the game. And so sometimes when I shook on the mound, I wasn't even shaking a pitch. We just did this, which meant shake, just to make it
Yeah.
look like doing something else. Like, yeah, no, we were always on the same page. Like, hell of a baseball player, but he's just better guy, awesome friend. Like, love that guy.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I know you guys took a picture together after the Charlotte game in Rice,
Yep.
kind of the battery, the Malone clean battery and everything. And both, your parents and Josh's parents, it was a sweet moment to see. Um, if you can talk a little bit for him and it's from it's not a super deep perspective, because I know you didn't hit in college, obviously the pitchers don't hit, but him being a catcher, was that like when there was an inconsistent umpire back there, was that the most frustrating thing for a catcher when maybe he's getting uh, a ball called a strike or vice versa and he's behind home plate, so like the very last inning he's like, come on Blue, you didn't call that last time, like I mean because he sees it closer than anybody else.
I will say this about Josh. Always did a really good job at controlling what he could control.
Yeah.
Like whatever the umpire said, it was out of his hands. But I mean, it was definitely frustrating. Like, yeah, I mean, like all catchers know, let's say like you get rung up on a pitch that's in the other batter's box. And so then you're like, okay, he's calling it out there. So then we start throwing it out. Like we throw some pitchers out there and he doesn't call it. Like it's going to be frustrating. But so, I mean, Josh would get upset, but he was one of the best players at just shaking it off and just still playing the game and doing what he could do.
Definitely.
One of the best at it. That's
Yeah.
probably why he was successful.
Yeah. And talk about that. Did you feel like at UTSA you had kind of like maybe an extra little advantage because your head coach was a catcher by trade, and then we know Coach Butler and everything he's brought in, and he's kind of forging this Temple to UTSA pipeline now with bringing guys from Temple. Like, did you feel like having like two coaches like so close to the program that kind of either played your position or had a big part in the pitcher catcher role? Did that help you a lot, or? Oh shoot, I lost you, Luke. I lost your audio for some reason.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I got you back.
Okay. That was weird.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll just take it. We'll just take it from the top and I'll have Jared edit that out.
Okay. But I think it definitely helped because I was able to get input from two different coaches.
Yeah.
Um Coach Hallmark, would be busy working like overall with everything. Not, I always had Coach Beller there if I had a question or something. If I wanted him to look at something, like, I mean, shoot, I just talked to him like a couple days ago. I mean, um, but then always getting also Coach Hallmark's input and his side of things. It was good to hear. Um, Coach Belamovich, Coach B, the volunteer assistant that was there, he also pitched back in the day. So
Okay.
he would give me his input. Obviously not as much because he was, busy, running around doing almost everything. But Coach Aguayo would, he would talk to me about thinking like, this is what a hitter thinks. So like, if you think like a hitter as a pitcher, what are you not expecting?
Hmm.
So like stuff like pitching backwards and that kind of stuff. But I do believe there's a big benefit to get the like input and perspective from multiple different coaches.
Yeah, I've heard some of the current guys, because I'll bump into guys on campus because I'm still a student and everything. And I mean, nothing but high marks for Mikey. And I know there's some things on the horizon to try to help get those guys a little more of a formal coaching role so that some benefits with that and everything. But definitely, that's one thing they mentioned is just how hard Mikey works and everything he's doing and all the coaches. I mean, I think Coach Hallmark has a very I mean, obviously the record has shown itself the past couple of years, and that's one thing like Chase and Tap talked about too was just Coach Hallmark knows how to get the best out of you, and that trickles down from his staff. So we talked about a little bit, COVID happens that the long term of that is you get this extra year. Your junior year, senior year, the 2022 season, you turn a big corner. You have a great season on the mound. Record innings, great ERA, some big moments for the team across the board. But you also kind of off the field, you know, get introduced to Ray Redding, friend of the pod, and start talking to Ray at the golf event. Next thing we know, we've got something called Meet Meep Apparel, and you've got
Yep.
an NIL deal. Talk about NIL. Talk about how beneficial NIL is for you guys as
How
student
me
athletes.
came up. You want me to?
Yeah.
Because I was also partnered with a company called Last Stand,
Okay.
which is another hat / apparel company, but based out of Austin. And every year, Coach Hallmark, we always work a fundraiser for the baseball program at a golf tournament. Well, so I was wearing a UTSA polo, boots and jeans, whatever. But I was wearing a Last Stand hat, and one of the golf carts that came by that was working a hole I was working was Ray, and eventually the Meet Meep guys. And they asked me where I got that hat, and I told them, and they said they were thinking about a company, and I said, well, you should go for it because I mean this is out of Austin. There's not really one in San Antonio. I think that'd be a good idea, and I think a lot of people would get behind that. And so we talked and we exchanged numbers, like maybe we'll see what happens. Nothing big. Um, but then eventually it actually became an idea, and they like to. I don't know if they'll say this, but they like to credit me for like helping inspire the idea at that golf tournament. And then 2022, Ray came to the Rice game that we played at Rice, and he saw me pitch in person, and I believe I went 6 point something and gave up 2 runs, and he seemed pretty impressed. And then the next morning we met in the hotel lobby, and we was like, dude, we're gonna do this Meet Meet thing. We want you to be the first NIL athlete to represent us. Will you do it? I was like, oh, let's go. Like, I was so pumped. And so
Yeah.
that's how that all came to fruition and everything. And it was kind of cool, like to say I kind of started it, and now to see like it's doing so well in the UTSA community. All these athletes, different sports now, like more than just hats. Like it is so cool to see how it's taken off. But it's kind of cool to think that's how it all started. But I like to think I definitely took advantage of the NIL rules, I guess, and like that kind of stuff while I was in college. It's gonna be kind of weird, but the way I looked at it as, I mean, I was never a Boy Scout or anything, but my sister was a Girl Scout. And so selling those Girl Scout cookies, I mean, not everyone's going to say, yes, I want some. You're going to get a lot of no's, but for every, however many no's, you will eventually get a yes. When it comes to NIL deals, all you need is a couple yeses. You know what I mean? So I wasn't afraid to reach out to companies and say, hey, this is what I got going on. I'm a starting pitcher at UTSA. will do this and this. I've played for, the Flying Chanclas San Antonio. All this stuff, I get good grades. I throw this hard. I do all this. Looking to have a big season. Like I wasn't afraid to reach out to companies, and so it was kind of cool to get like in Sierra, the San Antonio Zoo, like just different NIL opportunities, and just I don't know. It was definitely a fun experience.
Yeah, definitely. And I can attest. I mean, Ray I think he's both on the record and off the record has stated that, Luke, this
Let's
whole thing
go.
got started because of Luke, whether not just because of you opened the door and you showed them like what they could do, but even just, I mean, Ray wanting to put a product out there that people enjoyed wearing, enjoyed sporting, but also helping the student athletes and giving back. I mean, I was just talking to somebody the other day, one of the players, and just like, man, like I can't, like I was so surprised, like when I heard Simon say on an interview, like, yeah, I'm driving for Uber and trying to make ends meet and stuff and whatever. I mean, you guys have it so there you guys just have so many things going on, and
Mhm.
I think a lot of people think like, oh, they're student athletes, they get everything paid for, especially not baseball. I mean, 11.7 scholarships doesn't go very far in the grand scheme of things. And so,
Right.
but
No,
no, that's
I will say I did do some time on DoorDash.
okay.
I was a big DoorDasher, and I drove not anymore, but I drove a 1994 Ford F-150, no aces, and so that was kind of like mine when I would drop off food, and maybe if people saw my truck, they'd feel bad for me, you know. That
Yeah.
was my goal.
Show up in like your UTSA uniform, like you're confused and went to the wrong address and get an nice little extra tip out of it or something. Um, yeah, and me being apparel, I mean, they just brought on Caleb Hill like a month or two back,
I helped him.
and okay, awesome, yeah,
He was one of the biggest fans of like the hats and the apparel,
yeah,
and he's a hell of a ball player. Great outfielder. I mean, vacuum out there and making cool plays and everything, and then just great hitter from the left side. Like, yeah, I mean, he's got all five tools, and it
yeah,
was really a fan of the company. And I said, look, man, if you want to do it, go for it because you are someone that would represent it well.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and Caleb also, I'm going to call it the sixth tool. He has the ability to wear pitches really well. Something about when he's in that batter's box, that curveball just finds him in the wrong spots, and he gets
yep.
on base with it.
Hmm.
So okay, so before we move on to kind of the heart of this, the where are they now aspect, favorite UTSA baseball memory from both an individual and a team standpoint.
Oh man. Um, Gosh, favorite say baseball memory.
I
I
mean,
have
it
a
could be a
lot.
road trip, it could be something in the hotel, like, you know,
I know what it was. It was the 2022 conference tournament.
okay.
Uh, it was at Southern Miss. We obviously ended up not making a regional, but in the moment we thought we did enough. So I mean, it was cool. First game started off against FAU. I mean, we want to talk about amazing offense. Oh my gosh, so many lefties, and then uh, their first starter was Hunter Cooley, strike thrower, lefty. I mean, God, we had our hands full that first game, and I remember we used Braylon Owens as an opener for me. Um, and some things didn't quite go his way, and so I came in the game, and I ended up setting a conference USA record for like the most like innings pitched in relief. Like I went 9 innings in relief, 9.0.
Yeah.
Um, and we ended up winning that game. And I mean, we were happy, but we were like, we still got work to do.
Yeah.
And then we go on to beat Southern Miss not once but twice. I mean, come on, like we were going crazy,
On
like
their own field, on their own field.
on their own. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they were hosting the tournament. Like we were just going up there and competing as a team. Pitchers were filling up the zone, like just having fun. Hitters were going up there, clutch hitting, Flo and Poston, Chase King. I mean, that tournament was just it was so much fun. And then the championship game, I mean, it didn't go our way, but I mean, it was a hell of a game. I mean, we lost on a walk off down like the opposite field, a hit down the opposite field line. Like to me, like those are the most luckiest hits. Like we're going oppo down the line. Like you beat the hitter, like he's late, like you beat him, but he gets it just fair enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, it is what it is. But that was a good, like that was a fun game, and all the rest. I mean, and just having fun in the hotel. Like we were there for a whole week. Like it was fun.
Yeah. And I remember, watching those games on TV, when you guys beat Southern Miss, and then just the drama of that La Tech game. I mean, Flo in the top of the ninth ties it with a solo shot and to push it to the bottom of the ninth and everything with that. Talk about, obviously the things you
I have
guys.
another.
Oh, go
I have
ahead.
another.
Yeah, go
I have
ahead.
another memory. I have another
Yeah.
memory. Now this one goes back a little bit to like my third start, the third weekend of 2021.
Okay.
After I believe they had like the freeze hit San Antonio that season. We were supposed to play Utah. So that series got canceled. So we opened up at Sam, and then we played the home opener against UTA, I mentioned earlier. The next weekend, I got to start Friday night against LSU. And I mean, that was so cool.
Yeah.
Like they just went and, I mean, they just, went to Omaha and everything. Like, and they still had several guys. And I'm sitting there watching that game like, man, I faced Dylan Cruz. I faced him. I faced him.
Yeah.
I faced him. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that was cool. And I ended up going 5.1, I believe. Gave up one run on a solo home run. Or five. No, it was 5.2. I went 5.2 because then Grant Miller came in to face a lefty and like struck him out in like 3 pitches. But yeah, my first, like the only run they scored was a solo home run. So I mean, that was a pretty cool moment to go into LSU like that. And I mean, that whole series. I mean, we didn't play, like we didn't win, but like we gave them everything we had. Like the games would go, like we would hit home run, they'd hit a home run. Like we'd go into extra innings Saturday and Sunday. Like it was crazy. Friday was like your pitcher's duel, like late, like situational hitting, bunting, moving runners over, that kind of stuff. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
that was definitely a fun series too. And just for like me personally, like knowing, like I said earlier, like I can do this.
Yeah.
Like I can compete with the best at Division One. So that was another thing. So I'd say LSU, and then also but if I had to pick one, it was be for sure the team at Southern Miss. That tournament was unreal. So much fun.
Yeah. And I remember I was talking to Ryan Ward's dad this past season during one of the games. And he was like, because Ryan had come in like the 9th inning or something, because like you guys were just spent on pitchers. And he's like, Ryan was a freshman, had to make an appearance. I think he did okay. Yep. But his dad was like, oh, great, freshman getting thrown. Because they call that like the sandbox, right? Down at LSU.
Alex Box Stadium.
Okay, the box. Yeah, they call it the box. Yeah. And
he hit. he went in full gear, elbow guard and everything, went up there and hit. And he ended up striking out. But I mean, it wasn't 3 pitches. Like he had a nice at bat. And then the LSU pitcher just got like totally pumped, like screaming. And we're like, dude, it's a pitcher that, I mean, freshman pitcher. Let's relax up there. You know what I mean? It was funny.
Well, and you also this year, I know across the weekend we held them pretty tight, but you did pretty good against Shanuel too, right? Like you shut him down pretty good. Nolan Shanuel from FAU.
Yeah, so I got to pitch against him again, and I think this time it was, if I remember, it was this time our first conference series. Yep. Might be wrong. It was our first conference series, and it was home game. I think it went 7 innings. I pitched him pretty well this time. I believe I struck him out. Looking, umpire disagreed, but I remember the pitch. But yeah, no, that outing went good. And I mean, shoot, he went to the pros. Like he got drafted, and then 2 weeks later is playing first base for the Angels. So I mean, that's kind of cool. Like, oh man, I just pitched against you like a few months ago.
Yeah. I was playing MLB The Show the other day, and I was playing against the Angels, and anytime I strike him out, I'm like, all right, cool. No, it's cool to see him doing well. I mean, it's I'm sure he's a great kid and
Oh yeah, yeah.
heck of a ball player, but competition is great. And for me, I mean, I think, and Ray would probably agree with this. One of our favorite memories from this past season for you was seeing you get that inning in College Station and just kind of had, playoff atmosphere, if you will, coming in from the bullpen, seventh inning, the students are starting to come into the stadium. Like, I think UTSA was up like 5-0, 4-0 on them. Like, coming in on Tuesday, putting the show on, and then you come trotting in from the bullpen. That was a cool moment.
I remember. So sometimes if it was necessary, I would usually start on Fridays. And then if it was necessary, my bullpen always would be on a Tuesday. So if the situation came up, I would throw like an in-game bullpen. And so Coach Homework told me, like, be ready because that could easily be a possibility tonight. And of course it did. I think I went 3 up, 3 down. And was something that was really cool was, do you know about the 12th man at A&M? Do you know?
Yeah,
That's like a big
my
deal.
wife went to A&M, so yeah.
Okay. So you know all about it.
Yep.
Well, the third hitter I faced that inning was number 12, and he
Oh wow.
bunted on me. He bunted, and I just picked up the bunt and threw him out. And I was like, "Oh my god, the 12th man just bunted on me, and I got him out." So like that's like a thing I could say forever. Like number
Yeah.
12 for A&M bunted on me, and I picked it up and threw him out.
Yeah. And that's cool too because bunting has like there's some unwritten rules about bunting, like you don't bunt to break up a no-hitter, things like that. And so it makes total sense that A&M would throw their 12th man up there to go bunt.
Well, some people don't think I'm athletic on the mound, but I like to think I'm athletic on the mound in my PFPs. So I had to do what you got to do. Just pick up the ball and throw them out.
Yeah. And yeah, 3 up, 3 down and only 9 pitches. So not a traditional immaculate inning, but in this day and age when we're
Knock on
counting
wood, take it.
combined no hitters and stuff, we'll call it an immaculate inning.
Oh, sure.
um, so let's transition. So you finished at UTSA, and we've seen in so many ways how baseball is just a grind. I mean, you guys have a long fall season. It's intra squad, but a long fall season. You're doing stuff in the off season. I mean, there were guys this past season like Daniel Garza and Ruger Riojas, and like it seemed like a week after conference, they're out playing in the TCL, and
Exactly.
other guys went up north and whatnot. So around first week of July 3rd, you put it on Instagram that you were signing
Yep.
a professional contract with the Boise Hawks. Congratulations. That's so
Thank you.
incredible to see. A little background, and you can speak more to this, of course, but it's independent ball, but they kind of like, so they were independent ball and then they had some single A affiliation, and then MLB's wonderful commissioner, we'll say that, kind of gets rid of some teams, so they go back to individual ball. But talk about kind of just everything with that, getting that opportunity and getting in contact with the Boise Hawks.
So, so they were affiliated. They were affiliated with a lot of previous like baseball teams before, whether it was like the Cubs. I know Chris Bryant played there. Like all the stars of the Cubs. I mean, Chris Bryant doesn't play for them anymore, but that used to. They all played at that stadium. They also were the affiliate for the Angels at one time. Basically, what happened was during COVID, a lot of minor league teams were cut, and that happened to be one of them. And so they became a team in the Pioneer Baseball League, which is an MLB partner league. There's 4 independent leagues: the Pioneer, the Frontier, the American, and the Atlantic. And all of them are pretty much like partnered with the MLB. But yeah, so coming into contact with Boise, I mean, I had several. I don't need to say several, but I had some, reach outs for independent ball. But I wanted to, if I was gonna do it, it needed to be an MLB partner league. And I started getting, calls from MLB partner leagues. But I mean, I threw like 90 something innings at UTSA. I think it was 92. My body definitely needed a break. I didn't want to go straight from one season to the next. And I mean, I still, even taking that like a little bitty break just for like 2 weeks, still my body still felt it during this like season. Like it was tired, and it still is tired. Like it's right now I'm in the recovery mode and all that. But I was able to come see my girlfriend in San Diego after the baseball season, sometime in June, I think it was. And she, showed me around all these cool places, Sunset Cliffs, USS Midway that you mentioned. I mean, just different things. I mean, it's beautiful, beautiful area, nice weather. When one morning I get just a random call from a coach, and it was the head coach of the Boise Hawks, and so we talked, and I was like, wow. I mean, it's just like the most random call to get basically while on vacation. Like, it was nice. And I like now I have my baseball glove right here, and I have still the UTSA one, and
Yep.
I have some plyo weighted balls that I don't really have anyone to play catch with here. So I go over and find a brick wall outside and get my throwing in for the day. Um, Basically, while I was about to start that, he called, and it was just like, wow, this is cool. And so we talked about it, and the next thing you know, I'm up there, and let me tell you, I loved it. Boise was so. It's not. They pronounce it Boise. It's not Boise. Boise.
We see.
And
Okay.
that's like a big deal there. But I would still always say Boise. But I loved it. I mean, on average, we got 3,500 fans a game. I mean, it was crazy. Some nights, I mean, we would get over 5,000. I mean, just the atmosphere. They love their baseball. I mean, it was crazy. The weather is beautiful, mountains in the back. I mean, and it was really cool. Like, to say, like, my job is baseball. Like, I go to the field. Like, that's my place of work. That was pretty cool to do. Like, go get better, go to the field every day, not have to worry about like a school project or anything. So, I mean, I loved it there. And then visiting all these cool places, like to go away teams. Like, we went to Missoula in Montana. And that was beautiful. And then the Great Falls Voyagers have waterfalls there, and just the Glacier Range Riders was so beautiful, like big lakes and mountains. And I mean, you can see snow on the mountains, and I mean, it's July. It was crazy, and just, I don't know, it's a great experience. But I loved it.
Yeah. And what are some of the, I mean, you mentioned the MLB Partner League. I mean, other than kind of what seems obvious about that title, but what are some of the benefits of being in the MLB Partner League that maybe like the average fan might not know?
They have like direct contact to like affiliates with like all the MLB organizations. All the games are like I don't know the right wording. I'm not good with technology, but what's the word I'm looking for? It's the stuff where, like, there's something going on at the stadium to where it tracks every single pitch. It tracks the exit velocity, spin rate, like, for everything.
Yeah.
I forgot what it's called, but they send that information out to different organizations, obviously.
Yeah.
Like,
I
you'll
think they
see
call that
people.
like the sabermetrics, maybe.
It's sabermetrics, but there's a word for like the exact program they use. I just
Okay.
can't think of it now. But it's they send it out, and I mean, they have people sign. Like, I mean, several guys will sign, like, so and so signed to the Angels from this team, and then a week later, so and so signed to the Cubs from this team, and like people sign all the time. Like, so it's a good opportunity to keep playing, and like, you're basically in a pool of players that, I mean, not everyone is like in that league is like coming from what I did, like college. I mean, you have some guys that played pro, like played affiliate ball, and for whatever reason, they're not with that organization anymore. And so they're like kind of like free agents. And so they're going and playing in an independent league waiting to get picked up by an MLB team. So, I mean, what the weirdest part was that one of my best friends on the team that I came to know was Nate Alexander. And he was a pitcher at UTSA before Coach Hallmark got there, like a couple of years
Oh,
before I
wow.
got there. Like, he pitched at
Okay.
UTSA, and we were roommates on the road. It was like, oh my God, small world. Like, he was drafted by, I think, the Marlins. Like, I mean, it was just crazy.
Yeah. No, that's neat. And yeah, it's neat to see what independent ball provides. Trent Lockwood, he was kind of he's I feel he's got kind of a similar story to you. hustled at UTSA, put his name out there, just kind of the same type of guy. Like, why not me? Played a little independent ball, and then had an opportunity after that to I think he signed with the Yankees and spent a year or two like in the single A affiliate with the Yankees. And so, just bringing it full circle for you. Like, and I mean, I don't think your journey's done. I know you don't think that because that's why you're still, in between this interview and everything, still getting all your workouts in and still putting the work in behind the scenes. But at this point, how it's come full circle from like getting that opportunity to play Division 1, having a pretty good career at UTSA, a couple bumps along the way and everything, but that's just
Happen.
sports in general. You rebound from them, and now to get this opportunity to play independent baseball at a reputable team for a reputable team and in a reputable league is pretty neat. I noticed when I was tracking along throughout the past 2 months or yeah, about 2 months that you were out there, a lot of bullpen work coming out of the bullpen. Was that, with your preparation and your, the things you do to get ready for a game, like we kind of saw that a little bit with this season. You mentioned there was a couple of times you came out of the bullpen, kind of planned relief, have guys go a couple innings and you come in and finish it out. But what were some of the things you had to maybe switch up or some of the changes you made knowing you were going to be
It
coming
was
out of the
a
bullpen?
it was a completely different animal. Because so first of all, pro ball is completely different than college. Like you play almost every single day. And then, I mean, for example, you might have a 3 game series at home, and then right after, your 7 o'clock game, which could end at 10:30. You eat in the clubhouse and all that stuff while they do laundry, clean all the loops and everything. And then, I mean, after that, you got to get on a bus for 8 hours. And so like you're driving overnight somewhere. You might not get somewhere until 9 or 10 a.m. When I was like going to go play for Boise, I already had 92 innings. Like you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
at that time, if I would have started the rest of the season for a pro team, I could have ended with, I mean, God knows, like I still ended up with like near 140 innings, and that's a big jump for me. And my arm definitely felt it. Like it's my velo. I don't know if I'll just say my velo dropped. Like my body felt it the last 2 weeks of the season. Like it was definitely a grind. Like I've never been like pushed like that. Um, but now, like I said, I'm getting this recovery time, and it's great. And now I don't have to worry about fall ball. I can really work on myself, hit the weight room, do what I need to do to clean up mechanics wise, get stronger and get faster. So I'm looking forward to that, and I know I'll be fine. But I mean, it's way different because in pro ball, well, let's say in college, if you're a reliever in college, you might have to pitch. You'll pitch on the weekends and maybe a Tuesday. You're not going to pitch every game on the weekend. And so, like, if you pitch on Friday, like you're probably not going to pitch Saturday, maybe Sunday, maybe, and then just get ready for Tuesday. If you pitch on Saturday, you're not going to pitch on Sunday, probably that kind of stuff. Well, in pro ball, it's like you don't know when you're going to pitch. Like you just have to wait for your name to be called. Like you could be hot for like 4 days, and then finally pitch, and then pitch the next 3 days in a row. Like you just never know. Like you have to go to the field every day mentally ready to be like, my number could be called. I need to be ready to go. Because if you're not like mentally engaged, I feel like if you're not mentally engaged as a pitcher, you get exposed. Like if you think it's going to be a cakewalk, or you're just like it's whatever, you're going to get hit pretty hard.
Yeah.
So you have to stay locked in, and I believe that's hard to do. Like go into the field every single day, going, I'm pitching today. I'm pitching today. I'm pitching today.
Yeah.
So it was definitely different. But if I had to pick between starting or relieving, I'd definitely pick starting, just because I like having that routine of like I know I'm pitching this day, so I could throw my bullpen on this day. I could do my certain lifts on this day. You know what I mean? Just having like a set routine. But we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, and that's, I mentioned earlier, I wanted to tie in Shohei Ohtani a little bit, and he's done something at the highest level for your sport that has, like, I mean, there's been pitchers in the past that could hit the ball well, but like what he's doing like DH pitching, DH pitching, hitting while pitching. No one's ever done that before. How challenged, and I know this is you speaking for him a little bit, but for you being a pitcher and you've pitched at such a high level, how challenging does that have to be for him to where like he comes off the mound and instantly he's got to be thinking about like when he's hitting again, or like, hey, maybe I'm going to hit this inning, maybe I'm not. Like, what does that do to his routine and like everything with that?
So I think where it affects you the most is not even the stuff you see. It's like coming in the practice. Like I know at UTSA we'll have like two-way recruits and stuff and two-way guys in the fall. And after a couple seasons, whatever, they tend to pick one because I mean it is so taxing. Like practicing as a hitter and practicing as a pitcher, like getting all the work in where you need to go fielding and then hitting and like just doing all this different stuff and then switching gears and going to pitching. Like you are out there forever. Like it is tough. Like it is a lot of work. Um, I was, fun fact, I was recruited as a two-way at Corpus. Um, and Coach Marshall used to be the head coach, I believe, at UTSA before Coach Hallmark. And I went to a camp and he actually, I don't know if I should say this, but they were interested in me, but not as a pitcher. They wanted me as an outfielder.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, but I knew like I knew I had way more fun pitching. I love pitching. I knew that
Yeah.
from the beginning. But Corpus wanted me for both, and then after a while, I decided to focus on pitching because it's just so hard to do both. Now, speaking for Shohei Ohtani and just what he does, I mean that's just like Superman stuff. Like I can't even like you're going out there and facing the best hitters in the world, like going up there and dominating, and then I'm leading off. Okay, like
Yeah.
no big deal, and then goes and hits probably a home run or drives in some runs, does whatever, and then comes back and next inning dominates again. Like it's just crazy and how many different ways he impacts the game that he's in, especially when he pitches. Like as a hitter, I mean, even if he didn't pitch, which obviously he's not going to next year, he's still just a great hitter.
Yeah.
I mean, if he didn't hit, he's still a great pitcher, but just the way he's able to do both and excel at both it's unreal. So,
Yeah. And I went to last season. I went to an Angels game out in Anaheim. We were out there for something and they were playing the Twins and so he didn't pitch that game, but he hit still. And every time he came up to bat, the iPhones are coming out, the iPads are coming out. Like everyone's filming him and not missing in at bats. And yeah,
we're supposed to go to LA. Today's Friday. So we're supposed to go to LA tomorrow. I mean, we have plans, so I don't think we're gonna have enough time. I don't even know if they're playing in LA, but like we're right next to the Padres too.
yeah.
So like one time when she's not busy with work or like we don't have something planned, it'd definitely be cool to go to one of those games and see some studs. But yeah, I mean, just what he does is it's crazy, and there's a reason why you haven't really seen it been done before because it's insane.
No, for sure. And I think the closest thing at the collegiate level on kind of like the national stage was like, what Caglione was doing at Florida.
Yes, what he's doing now is, yeah. And I think, what was his name? Not LSU, Louisville pitcher. He might be injured now, but I think he might have been picked up by the Rays. I might be like way off, but like Brendan McKay.
Okay.
Like he excelled at both, and it was picked up as a two-way. But now I'm pretty sure, like at the MLB level, he's just pitching.
Yeah,
but like he was someone who did it like really good too for Louisville.
Well, and I saw that Aiden Bauman, he played in the Minx League this summer, and he pitched a little bit. He got thrown in, and I've talked to different people about this. I wish for baseball, similar to football, like NCAA football, you can get like 4 games before you burn the shirt. Aiden got thrown in there when the trio of outfielders went down, Dash, Ty, and Isaiah. But yeah, like I did a little summer ball recap for the guys playing summer ball, and I saw that he was pitching a little bit for the Minx League, and so that's cool.
Yeah, he could pitch. He would throw bullpens. Like we knew he could pitch.
Yeah.
We just never really saw him like in a mini inter squad outings or anything like that, but he definitely has the ability to pitch.
No, for sure. So let's kind of start to wrap things up a little bit here. what are some, and you've talked about this a lot already, just kind of your overall approach of, why not me? And and just your hard work that you exhibit on and off the field. What are some kind of life lessons baseball's taught you? And you're still playing the game. So, a lot of guys I've talked to on these bonus episodes, like they've already kind of closed that chapter, but what are things you've learned from baseball and what are kind of some life lessons you've taken from the game?
Ooh, that's a deep question. So I'll say this, like I'll say a couple things. First, I'll say the cliche thing where baseball's a game of failure. Like, in what other sport can you succeed so little but be considered successful? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, if you're a quarterback completing 30% of your passes, yeah, okay, like you're not going to last long. Or if you're, you know, in the NBA, shooting 30%, like that's not that good either. Uh, you're not going to last long. So it's a game of failure, and it makes you have to handle. It teaches you how to learn failure, and just keep going and not giving up. Like baseball is such a quick turnaround. Like you can't sit there and think about the past and let it eat you up because then it's going to affect your next time. And before you know it, it spirals out of control. So I can remember like having talks with Coach Butler in the bullpen. Like I always like to slow the game down. Like I feel like it would speed up for me. Like whether if I was pitching good, I'm like, I get the ball, pitch, get the ball and pitch, get the ball and pitch. Or if I'm doing bad, I wouldn't say bad, but like if I was struggling to specifically throw it in a spot, like if I was missing locations, I would sit there and just try like, okay, here we go, here we go. But for me, it was always just like step off the mound, take a breath, just breathe, relax, get back up there, basically not let, you know, past outcomes affect the next outcome. It teaches you how to move on quickly and how to handle failure. Um, and that's why I love it. I love baseball because it's one of the only games where you can win 50% of your games and be considered, a pretty good team. Like no NFL team's gonna get, I mean, they play 17 games now, but like in baseball, if you went 9-8 in your first 17 games, all right. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
If you went 9-8 during an NFL season, it's kind of like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's just so cool how a team that, barely over 500 can then go and win the World Series. Like to me, it's great. But man, baseball it's taken me places that I just never thought I'd go, whether it's been like Cape Cod or Idaho, or like, I mean, heck, just playing all these different places in conference, whether it was Florida or Virginia or like with Old Dominion, that kind of stuff. I mean, it's taken me places, and at the end of the day, what I've learned is like if you put in the hard work, it doesn't mean if you put in the work and like no one sees it, you know, great. Like do what you got to do. But just because you put in the work doesn't mean you're going to succeed, but it does give you a greater chance. And at the end of the day, whether you succeed or not, well, for me, at the end of the day, if I succeed or not, I know, look, I gave it all I had. I gave it all I had and I'm good. And I feel like I could take that to everything in life. Like I'm going to give everything in life 100%. I'm going to work hard for it. And if it doesn't work out, I could, at the end of the day, hang my hat and say, you know what? I gave it all I had. I don't want to ever go back and think, wow, I wish I could have done this, or wow, I wish I did this differently. Like, I don't want to think that. Whether it's going for a job in the future or like relationships or anything, wow, I wish I did this. No, just give it 100% now. And it doesn't guarantee success, but it will guarantee, like, at the end of the day, for me, I'm okay with the result. I don't know if
Yeah.
that makes sense. I got kind of deep there.
No, that was great. I loved it. Yeah, I mean, I never, it's funny. I love baseball. It's my favorite sport. I never played it past middle school. Once the kids learned how to throw a curveball, I was done. I couldn't hang and stuff. I like to think, I don't know, the story I always tell people is like my senior year of high school, I was going to go back out for the baseball team just to be around the sport again. But I ended up sticking with track because I wanted to break 5 minutes in the mile.
I love
And
track. I used to run the 100.
okay, yeah.
I
So I
set
was
I set the I set the fun fact, the little trivia in the future
yeah.
for Alamo Audible. I set the middle school record back in the day in the 100 meters.
Dang, that's
Yeah,
impressive.
I used to be really, really skinny and really, really fast. I used to do triple jump, long jump. I love track, and honestly, I would have done track in high school, but track's at the same time as baseball.
Yeah.
So, like I said, when I had to focus on one, definitely baseball. But just a little fun fact for y'all. Love
No,
track.
for sure. Yeah, we'll have to get some UTSA needs to do like they need to start doing like an alumni game, you know? Like there's still a lot of guys that live around the area. Like basically what I'm getting at is I want to get you and Dash out there now that he's probably healed up and see who's got better range in center field now that we know that you've got this track talent.
I will say I am fast and I could cover some ground, but Dash, I mean, that that's like no. Dash is so good at outfield. I mean, any when I was pitching and a fly ball went to Dash in center field, I knew more times like I was okay.
Yeah.
Like I was totally fine. Like I had full faith in him. And if he did mess up, I mean, everyone messes up, but it wasn't a common occurrence. Like he would get to balls, I swear that I would think are doubles. I'm going to go back up third. Next thing I know, he catches it. I'm like, hey, thank you.
Yeah, and one of my favorite memories from this past season with him, and it was one of his mistakes. He misplayed the ball, and it got over his head, and the guy got a double on it. And then that same half inning, he had to catch him out, catch him, throw him out. Basically, fielded it and just a beautiful relay to Matt, and Matt threw it to Tony, and got out of the inning just like that. So,
Yeah, sounds like him.
um, but yeah, I'm gonna mention that. Start, UTSA alumni game. We need. I think that'd be a good fundraiser. Do it around the same time as the golf outing and everything. But
I'd be down for it. That'd be fun. I mean, I'd definitely peg some people.
yeah, there you go. So and I kind of already hinted at this a little bit. You're not done playing the game out there right now, and you're in California. But what are some of your future goals, future plans? Like what's kind of on the horizon for you?
So as of the future, I'm gonna keep playing baseball for sure.
Yeah, yep.
It's just kind of up in the air right now where next season, whether it's in Boise or somewhere else.
Okay.
Uh, because I there's a lot of stuff. There's some things going on in Boise right now, and they're giving us like a couple weeks, and then they're going to reach out about extending contracts and all that stuff. So we'll see. You'll probably hear something soon. Uh, but for the future, I'm only in San Diego for a couple more days, and then I'm heading back to Texas. I'm going to be around the San Antonio area a lot. I'm moving in with the former UTSA baseball pitcher Jacob Jimenez. Gonna be moving in with him, and I'm gonna be giving lessons in the area. I have several kids that have reached out wanting me to give lessons, and I'm excited too because partly because I feel like I know what I feel like I'm good with kids. Like I could talk to them. I'm patient, and I love teaching. I used to want to be a math teacher. I mean that's what my girlfriend does now. So I mean, power to her. That's not me anymore.
Yeah.
But I feel like I could really help some kids, and I think it'd be really fun and rewarding for me as well. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, maybe some of them see this and they, want to get some more lessons. But I'm excited. I got a couple places lined up, like different facilities to work at, and then do that for a few months, and then head back out to play baseball wherever.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we definitely at Alamo Audible have enjoyed, following your UTSA journey. A lot of us that call maybe the UTSA super fans, like we've enjoyed watching your journey with the Boise Hawks. Whatever the future entails, whether that's with the Boise Hawks, that's with another independent league, I think that your journey is definitely not done. And I know you're not ready for it to be either in terms of playing the baseball every day. So that's great to see. Where can people find you? Where can they get connected with you?
So I have Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. I wouldn't really go TikTok. That stuff is goofy. But Instagram and Twitter is at Luke Malone 44. So they can reach me there and just send me a message if they want to. But yeah, if something comes up, I'll let you know, like whether it's where I'm going to go play. And so, I mean, you can send something out, report it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, definitely. And, we got a lot of people that listen and a lot of people in the San Antonio area. So, you've talked already just so much about networking and putting yourself out there and everything. You've got a lot to offer both on and off the field with what you bring to the table. So, Luke, thank you so much.
I will say this. Let me hold
Yeah,
before
go
you
ahead. Go ahead.
sign off. I mean, I love like the city of San Antonio did so much for me while I was there, and I love the people of San Antonio, whether it was the fans or just different companies or the school. Like San Antonio treated me so well, and I mean, obviously, I don't think it's going to stop. Like I'm gonna be around the area. You'll see me at football games, some baseball games. It might be a while for me until I go back to the baseball field at UTSA, just because it's going to be hard. It will be hard, just seeing it all again and seeing the American logo, but uh, they just I just gotta say thank you to like the city of San Antonio. They just did so much for me, and they made my time at UTSA, I mean, just great. Stuff like this, like doing interviews, like y'all show so much love, and I wish there was something I could do to like just show it back. But I try. I try to engage with everyone, say hello, say hi, say thank you. But y'all really have done a lot for me, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I got, there's so many, we've talked already about Ray. I mean, there's so many other people like, I started taking class. My wife and I have been in San Antonio for, I think coming up on almost 8 years now, but started going to UTSA the spring of 22. And so that's what got me a lot more connected to like UTSA and UTSA athletics. And
Mhm.
I'm grateful for the opportunity to do this for Alamo Audible, but I mean, there's so many people that have done far more for UTSA athletics and UTSA baseball and student athletes like yourself than I could ever imagine to do. So definitely thankful for those people that have laid the foundation, and people like yourself that you're going to give back and you're going to carry that on. And you did that. You came into a program at UTSA that had accomplished a lot of good things. Your teammates and yourself, you guys accomplished a lot of good things as a team, as individuals, and that's going to continue onward, and hopefully in the very near future that results in a regional bid and maybe even an Omaha bid at some point. And it all starts with and that's that's one of the reasons why I like doing these Where Are They Now, because even though you're the most recent UTSA alumnus we've had on now, it was Chase and Tapp and all those guys, but now you've taken that title from them. But I mean, even though you're very fresh in the alumni world of UTSA, still already looking to give back and continuing that framework that was laid out before you. So,
oh, y'all will definitely see me around for sure.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks, Luke. Thanks again so much. Rest up. Enjoy San Diego. Looking forward to seeing you back in Texas. And thanks again for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And if you know anyone about those lessons, you let them know.
100%. Definitely. Yep. We'll do. All right. Thanks, Luke.
Yes, sir.